Hi everyone. My name is Eimear Gallagher, and I am going to be talking to you today a little bit about my career so far, the kind of path that I have took, some opportunities that I had, and some things that I found useful. So where I am now is I'm a graduate engineer in the Millimetre Technology Group in Space. And I've recently graduated from my master's degree in physics from Nottingham Trent University. And I suppose two important milestones to me have been the two prizes that I got, one from the Royal Astronomical Society and one from my university, kind of showing me that I'm doing something right along the way. So I'm based at RAL Space at the Rutherford Appleton Lab on Harwell campus. We're part of the Science and Technology Facilities Council. And unfortunately, the conference can't be in person at the minute, but hopefully in the future, people will have the opportunity to come and see some of our facilities on our site. So I took what is really considered the traditional route into science. I did A-levels in science and maths, then straight away followed by university. One different thing that I did though was I mainly applied to universities that offered industrial placements as part of their physics degrees, because I was quite keen to try and gain additional experience. Now there's a huge range of alternatives available to this sort of traditional route. Hopefully at some point during the conference today you will have the opportunity to hear about the apprenticeship scheme at STFC, and there's also opportunities for people to do part-time degrees and higher education qualifications, so that sort of traditional route into science isn't always needed anymore. And so a little bit about when you think about early career, it can be up to 10 years following the completion of your highest level of education, which is really quite a long time. So I kind of prefer to think of the early career period as a bit of a journey that's made up of like lots of little tiny steps. And it's more about the little steps that you can take to move forward towards your goals, which is where I kind of got the name for this talk, whereas every little millimetre step that you take forwards towards your goal, it can be really important and can make such a difference. So one of the ways that I tried to do this was essentially by taking every opportunity that came my way. And some of them are mentioned here in these boxes. And some of these jobs were paid, some were unpaid, some were teaching or mentoring, some were more research related, but I was able to use sort of each one as a stepping stone. And I started with ambassador jobs at my university and some volunteering. And once I was then more comfortable in the physics department, I then moved on to being able to get research experience and working over the summers and working in our on-site observatory. And really all of these little roles that I took on in addition to my degree kind of culminated in me then successfully getting a place on the STFC placement programme. And that was really a very huge step in my career up until that point. Interestingly, although the industrial placement is probably the one with the biggest impact, it itself also had further impacts on other things. So getting to do the placement year really raised my confidence levels, and I was then able to, I felt more able to do more science outreach and to also become involved in leading the Physics Society at my university and trying to improve that for other students. So everything really does play a part. Now to kind of talk a bit more about the placement year that I did at STFC. So I did this in the Millimetre Wave Technology Group, the group that I currently work in, and it was a 1-year placement between the second and third years of my university degree, and it was a full-time job. And it was actually my first experience of working with millimetre wave technology, so I had very little experience before that. I had done a little bit of radio astronomy, but nothing quite to the level of what was done in the group. And so it was really an on-the-job learning experience. And I had a really supportive team. You can see in the picture there with one of the instruments that we built. And it was a great learning process. I learned an awful lot of technical skills and really got that extra experience of working in industry. And so the instrument that you can see in the pictures there on the screen is called CHARM. And this is an instrument that we built for the Large Millimetre Telescope in Mexico. And I was very lucky that I got to actually work through the entire process of getting the receiver ready. So when I started my placement year, all we had were schematics. And I was able to follow it all the way through the design work, the building, the testing, and finally deploying it on top of a very high altitude extinct volcano in Mexico, which was just absolutely incredible. And it's something that I would not have had the opportunity to do had I not done the placement. And it was an international collaboration with the University of Mexico and the National Institute of Astrophysics, Optics and Electronics. And so I got the opportunity to work with a really wide range of people in a very international team. And the other things that the placement allowed that I wouldn't otherwise have gotten was that I co-authored a conference paper, and it was great to have that really, and to already have a conference paper before I'd even graduated university. It also resulted in a job offer from the MMT Group, and for the graduate program, which I'm now on. And that was a really nice thing to come out of my year working in the group. And as I mentioned before, I also got an award from the Royal Astronomical Society, which included the opportunity to present my work at their headquarters in London to a really large group of experienced scientists and engineers, which was just an incredible experience. So moving on to the graduate scheme, which is what I'm currently in. It's a 2-year program at STFC, and the aim really of part of the graduate scheme is to support your journey towards chartership, which can take anywhere between 4 and 7 years, depending on your education and qualifications beforehand, and the experience that you get. I personally have chosen to become a chartered engineer with the Institute of Physics, because that kind of mixes my background in physics and my current work in engineering quite well. But there's other opportunities. There's the Institute of Physics, the IUT, the IMechE, and there's also alternatives for, I think, project management and business and finance. So there's really lots of opportunities for that. And another thing that the graduate team run is a lot of communication and team working, training and workshops. So in addition to your possibly technical role that you might have day to day, you're also then building your soft skills and your interpersonal skills and an introduction to management skills too. So it's really a great opportunity to build all of the skills that are going to be necessary for your early career. And it also has the opportunity to have a 3-month placement in the second year of the graduate scheme, which allows you to move to a different department in STFC or even to an outside organisation, and gives you the opportunity to work on something that you maybe haven't worked on but are interested in, or just if you realise there's something missing from your skill set, you're then able to go away and think, oh, well, working in this group would fix that. And so it's great to have that opportunity to make sure that you keep your skills up and that there's constant progress in your work. And the roles for both the graduate scheme and the placement schemes are normally advertised in kind of September, October time most years. But so if there's any undergraduates or recent graduates in the audience who are interested, definitely take a look at the STFC websites and keep an eye on the jobs that are advertised for any possible opportunities. So I mentioned the MMT Group a couple of times, but not really said what we do. But the group specialises in design, development and manufacture of millimetre and sub-millimetre wave receivers. You can see the kind of regions that we work in labelled there on that electromagnetic spectrum, kind of tipping into a bit terahertz work as well. And a way to sort of tie it into the theme of this year's conference, the theme of environments, is that the group does quite a bit of work developing receivers not only for weather satellites and atmospheric instruments, but also astronomical receivers as well. And so there's kind of different ways where we're both monitoring the Earth's environment through weather satellites and these high atmosphere flights, but we're also able to monitor environments that are much further from home by using our astronomical receivers to look at star-forming regions in the interstellar medium. And so a nice way to tie it into the theme of the conference and the methods of monitoring different environments, both our own environment and also in space. So I have a couple of things that I think are quite important when you're in your early career. And one of those is definitely resilience. And I know that a lot of people who are currently in their early career, whether they've finished university or are still at university, a lot of them have had to be resilient because of the COVID pandemic. We've all had to change the ways that we work and the way that we do things. And so there's had to be a lot of resilience there and a lot of determination to continue with your goals in the face of adversity. Another thing that I think is very important along with that is to keep in mind your dreams and ambitions. It's important to keep sight of those and to develop your goals in line with what your dreams and ambitions are. And they might change throughout the path of your career, but it's always a great idea to kind of keep them in mind to encourage you to move forward. And especially if you're recently started in say a new job, maybe you've just finished university, similar to like I have, it can actually be a bit odd to not have maybe an immediate goal of, say, finishing exams and finishing university. You obviously have projects that need done in work, but having those longer term goals can be a little bit more difficult. So I always think it's a good idea to think, where do I want to be in a year's time? Where do I want to be in 5 years' time? Where do I want to be in 10 years' time? And like I said, those can change, but it's always a nice thing to keep an eye on. A few tips for those of you who might be having to do interviews or are recently graduated and are searching for jobs. I personally have found that making use of different online platforms has been very useful. Places, like LinkedIn or GradCracker, or maybe your university has its own employability platform that you can look on. But it's important to try and make it a habit and to keep checking back so that you don't miss anything. And a great strategy that I like using for interviews is the STAR strategy. And this uses a kind of 4 points to answer questions that you get in interviews, like, give me an example of a time when you worked well as a team or when you faced adversity. And it's a nice way to explain the situation that you were in, explain the tasks that you had to do, state the actions that you took, and then explain the results. And it's a really great way to keep that all straight in your head when you're answering those type of questions in a high pressure situation. My final comment really is on networking and the opportunity to build your network. And you should take opportunities like conferences to talk to other people and to start making connections. I think that many people in their early career share a lot of the same thoughts, worries, concerns, and speaking to people who are like-minded and have similar goals and aspirations can really help you feel more secure in your own decisions and choices that you take. Also, if you can connect with maybe people who are further along in their career and you can get a sort of mentoring relationship there, then that is also a great opportunity. And it's also good to try and join a society or a professional body linked to the field that you want to work in or are working in, or an early careers network if you've got one in your organisation. And use things like LinkedIn. They're essentially the electronic version of a business card now. So yeah, it's really important to also make those links. Now I will take some questions, and my contact details are there if anyone wants to get in touch or drop me an email.
Thank you, Eimear, for this truly inspirational talk and for all the useful tips. So maybe now for the question, could you tell us a bit more about the impact of your placement here on your year 3 of university course? Do you think it's changed anything, the fact of taking this year to do the placement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it had a huge impact on my third year of university, because I was coming back to university having worked a full-time job and worked 9 to 5 every day. I think that I really liked that routine. And so university can often be a lot less structured than that. And definitely the structure of my placement and my routine is something that I brought back in to my third year of university, and I tried to stick to that that sort of 9 to 5 routine that just gave me more balance in completing assessments and assignments and things like that. I also think that it gave me another boost of motivation. Knowing what was out there after university really gave me the motivation to complete the last 2 years and know that there were exciting things to happen afterwards.
Yes, it sounds really like a good opportunity. On this project, this instrument that you spoke about on the top of a volcano, this sounds really exciting. Is there any challenge that you encountered during this project?
Yeah, so it was an incredible project, and I was very, very lucky to have been able to work on it. And yeah, there were definitely challenges, especially when installing the instrument on top of the volcano. It's at such a high altitude that you actually start to struggle a little bit with the oxygen levels, and so even concentrating is harder. And especially moving boxes and unpacking bits of the instrument, it's really quite a strange experience because everything is more difficult than what you found it before when you were doing it in the lab. And so that was definitely an adjustment. We spent quite a few days adjusting to those conditions to be able to install the instrument. But yeah, that was definitely one of the challenges of it.
Yes, when you realize the importance of oxygen.
Yes, very definitely.
Okay, and you already tell us a bit about the MMT Group, but maybe can you tell us a bit more on how do you feel about working in a group which is working at the same time on receivers for atmosphere and weather observation, and at the same time on astronomy, which sounds completely different?
Yeah, I actually find it a really interesting thing about the technology that we work with. And so a lot of what we do is what's called heterodyne technology, which could be another talk. But it's actually the same technology that's used across all 3 types of instruments. And so we can use the same sort of components and the same technology in all 3 applications, which is really quite nice because it means that my work day to day is really quite varied because I have lots of different applications of the work that I do. And so it's nice to have a mixture.
Yes, I can imagine. And maybe a last question, if we still have a minute. What do you think has been your greatest project so far, or the thing that you are the most exciting about?
I definitely think that the charm instrument that we installed in Mexico has been the most exciting. It was also the first major project that I worked on, and yeah, just to have all the different experiences that I got, the travel and the technical skills, and getting to work with people all over the world, was just really incredible.
Thank you really much, Eimear, for your time today.